Hello, my loves, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm really excited and just so happy. I'm just so grateful and full of joy today that we have on Shelby from Cosmic Aura Beauty. She is a self proclaimed higher self hair witch, which I absolutely love. I'm obsessed with the fact that she gave herself that title. And it's so true because what she does goes so far beyond just, hey, let me cut your hair, which she did mine the other day. It goes so far beyond that and more into like this really gorgeous ritual of self care and deepening into yourself and your truths while you are in your sessions with her. And she offers so many of them that I've never seen anybody else offer before, not just haircuts, but all kinds of wonderful, beautiful, magical things that she does with your scalp and your color and all kinds of things. And I'm going to let her talk about all of that stuff. But while we kind of lead up into that, Shelby, I know that you and I have been seeing each other, so to speak, for quite a while, but I don't actually know that much about kind of your backstory and kind of what led you to want to be in your space, owning your own salon and really just getting into hair in the specific way that you do it yourself. I would love to learn more about that.
Well, it's so good to be here, and thank you for that introduction. And I love that we've connected. And how I'm not sure how long it's been actually, but I was just talking with my last guest that just left. I believe we got connected through Grunehex. Did you find one of my cards there? And then that brought you here, or no? How
No,
did you hear about
actually,
me?
I found you through Angela.
Angela?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, all right. That part totally left my mind. Okay, we'll have to get into that another time. But oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I know
Um,
Angela is one of our mutual friends, and every time she would get her haircut, she always would tag Cosmic Aura, and I'm always like looking, and I'm like, Angela has the best hair. It is so badass, and it always
oh
looks
my
so
gosh.
good and on point. And she was always tagging you, and I was like, I gotta go see this woman at Cosmic Aura.
I love Angela. She actually used to be in this space. Did you see her in here? What
I
first
did not. I
sessions?
never got a chance to come see her. I was working like three jobs at the time, and just like it was too far of a drive for me to make at the time when she was in there, unfortunately.
Yeah, so she has a lot to do with what we're doing in this current space. She actually used to practice. She had her offerings in here, and I used to come see her. And I met her through a yoga teacher, just working at Blue Luna. We both were teaching there, so we met there. I started seeing her for services. She was working somewhere else, but then told me about this awesome little portal space that she was going to move into, and that's exactly what this is. It's like a really long space. It's kind of like, it's almost like we're between two businesses, and it's almost like they just sealed this off to make it another little space that could be used. So it's a really long and like narrow space, so I like to call it like a little portal or womb space. You feel really cozy, you feel like really safe. um,
You do.
and just really invited in here. And so I've always felt that way even before we were in here. So she was in here, and then it was like a year and a half ago that she was talking about moving in a different direction and expanding in other ways. And she was talking about not being in here. And I was like, oh my gosh, that seems like the absolute perfect place. Because myself and Caitlin, another practitioner, we've been together for 6 years. And so her and I co-own this space, and we've created this atmosphere together. So I was like, this is the spot to manifest our vision that we've been talking about for a while. And so we've been in here for like a year and a half, and just coming full circle and just thinking, reflecting on all of that is it it's very heart centered, and the fact that it just came together through Angela. And I love that you're reminding me of her because she's a big reason why we're here. But your original question, so I've been in the hair industry for like 20 years, almost, which is so cool to be able to say that. And looking back as me as a little baby stylist, and talking to people that are like, oh my gosh, I've been doing hair 15, 20 years. I was like, just in awe of like, wow, I can't believe you've been doing it for that long. And like, wow, like that is just, I really looked up to that, and I was like, oh my gosh, can't even imagine to be there. And so to be in this realm of time and space of that I can say that is really just like a wow factor to me, and the progression of like you said, how I'm offering services now compared to just, starting the bare basics of like beauty school, learning the bare bones. I had the opportunity to work with so many awesome stylists that I learned from, lots of good techniques from like salon to salon. And that really gave me such a good foundation to then just kind of grow into my own, self and like how I offer services. This is the second place that I've owned, actually. I owned another place myself in Milwaukee that was called Mindful Beauty Organic Salon. That was back in 2014 that I opened that space. So from 2007 to 2014, I was just kind of going from salon to salon, opened up. And that's when I started bringing into practice like clean, conscious color and being really mindful with like, okay, what products am I putting on people? Focusing on them being as low tox as that was available at the time. And so I've been doing that since 2014 and loving that aspect. But like you were saying, it's really grown into, being richer in other levels energetically and just like weaving in my lived experience and everything that I am interested in and passionate about, bringing that into my services and creating this atmosphere for people to come share.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, yeah, and I almost had forgotten that you also teach yoga on Saturdays, and so I'm curious if it was part of that experience of growing into a yogi as well that also inspired you to bring in more of this ritualistic, energetic element to the specific way that you offer your services in the salon now.
I would say definitely. So I did yoga teacher training back in 2021, and with two mentors that I was just saying just yesterday, I can't even believe that I was had the privilege to work with them, and I continue to, do courses through that or classes through them, and I'm always just inspired and bring that into how I'm teaching. But yeah, I'm right across the street almost. I teach at a studio called Blue Luna Yoga and Wellness, and it's quite a cozy little home over there too. I'm proud to be able to teach there once a week. Saturdays I do like a hatha slow flow at 9 a.m. on Saturdays. And I definitely feel that that has rippled very much so into how I offer services. So just the way energetically and like nervous system wise, how I listen to people, and it's a very big priority to me to create as open of a space as I can and just let people show up, and they don't need to put a mask on and be different. It's kind of like, hey, if you had a crummy day, that's fine. You don't need to pretend. You don't have to pretend, and just like come in as you are, as long as you're not being
Yeah.
a turd to anybody. Like, but, just come in. You don't need to make something different. And, I'm here to listen to, maybe things that you haven't liked with your hair, things that you would like to bring in. Because hair is, it really is an extension of us. It's a way to express ourselves, just the energy that our hair holds, and making it a little bit more, like you said, into a ritualistic, type of service. And I feel that comes especially into play with my head spa services, because that is a solo journey with myself and somebody else who comes in. And then for haircuts and color that I offer, it's myself and Caitlin, and we both work in tandem beautifully, just side by side. And our clients are always really great to each other. But um, I would say more like the ceremonial aspect really comes into head spa services.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, which I haven't had the pleasure of, enjoying
I
one of
know.
those yet. It's on my list, but I would love to hear more
Thinking
about
that.
that because I understand it's a much longer service, right? Like, it's like an hour and a half, I think it is, and I'm curious as to kind of how you go about that and what all is entailed.
Yeah, so I'm fresh off one right now. On Thursdays, I offer at the time at the moment here head spa services where I can again be in here solo, and
So
it's
Caitlin is not in there
been
on Thursdays.
No,
It's
Caitlin's
just
not
you.
in here on
Okay.
Thursdays. It's myself, so it's an extra like solitude of a space to really meet yourself. And so I offer two different sessions at this time. One is like an hour and a half experience, and the other one is a 2 hour experience. And I tend to go over both of those, just because I'm kind of watching the clock, but it really is very signature to the each individual person, everything that I'm putting on your scalp and just how I'm addressing your body, looking at the body, and definitely weaving in yoga energetics. I'm also Reiki 1 certified, so that's not something that I talk a lot about yet, but I absolutely do weave it into just channeling in that type of energy into what I'm doing, how even I place my hands on the body and the scalp, how I'm moving around product on the scalp, how even I'm using the water it's very intentional with like not to jolt the nervous system, to create this container that you can truly start to disarm yourself a little bit, falling a little heavier and feeling cozy by like the heat going on. So there I have like a nice heating pad, lots of cozy blankets. You're propped up nice. My yoga mind comes into play where I'm, making sure your lower back's supported, just using little cushions and pillows and such. And so your comfort is a high priority. And if anything doesn't feel right, I'm always like, please let me know. I can make adjustments. Like this time is for you. And I'm here to, guide you and be here with you along the way as you really don't have to do anything. You just show up and I'm here to do everything, but it's a quiet space, a sacred space with yourself to and I kind of address in the beginning before we get started at the bowl. I like to give everyone just a couple minutes to themselves where I kind of just walk away. I don't totally leave. I'm still in the vicinity, but I kind of walk away and I'm like, this moment is for you to really get comfortable. So if you need to adjust or, just kind of
Oh.
just kind of shake some things off and really just because I feel like a lot of times most of us, myself included, walk around like really, and
Mhm.
we have this like erect kind of armor feeling and where you feel kind of hardness in the front and you're just really, like, okay, I gotta be on, I gotta be on, I gotta be on. And really, it's like, okay, let's start to soften the front, and this is a safe place to do that and explore within yourself. And again, you don't have to actively do anything, but I offer in a little invitation to maybe connect to uh, some type of energy or affirmation that you might want to bring more of into your life, even like a sense of peace, a sense of connection, a sense of just anything comes to mind. And being open to knowing that your whole entire loving support system of your own understanding is here with you. You are held, you are safe, you are taken care of so much more than you can fathom. And to just basically honor that. And that's always with you, as far as I feel. But really pausing from the doing, and just realizing, reconnecting, like reaffirming, like, okay, wow, I can really feel that. Maybe you start to feel a tingle, like, you start to connect to the other senses that you have inherently.
Mhm.
And it's really quite, I mean, I get lots of different feedback from people, and I'm not doing anything to you. I'm doing my best to just be like an open vessel. And of course, I'm working on your scalp. I'm working with your crown. I'm addressing things there. But for me, that's one level. And there's so many other things going on. That's like how it looks on the outside. Um, but it's so much richer and there's so much more being infused in those sessions.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, and I definitely can feel when you're saying that you not only infuse these different aspects of your yoga practice, but of Reiki as well, even just as someone who's experienced your haircut several times. One of the wonderful things that I noticed right away the first time that I came and saw you is you do make comfort a top priority, not just, and I think so many people will say that. So many practitioners, so many service providers of all kinds will say, like, well, I'm here to make you comfortable. And they either take that in a very physical way, they make sure their chairs are comfortable, that sort of thing, or they mean it in a way of like, I'm here to not judge you. You can say what you want. This is a safe space. And I really feel like the way that you are showing up for people and opening your doors really blends all of those things and then some together. You're not only creating the physical comfort, all of your chairs are so comfortable. And I thought what was really something that I loved so much the first time I came and saw you was that even the chair that you have at the bowl where you do the hair washing is like this adorable little chair that you would see in a cute little office somewhere. Like it's not an office chair. It's not like this hard plastic, like just because it's curved and it fits the body a little bit more means that it's comfortable. Like it's a cushy, really comfortable chair, and then you always have your cute little ottoman that you pull up so that people can prop their legs up and like really just lean back and really lean into it. And I notice every time, but of course the first time as well, that like you said, even as you're washing the hair, like certain specific things about like, oh, today I'm gonna work more kind of like this. Sometimes it's more on the temples, sometimes it's more in the back of the neck. Like I can really feel that you are guided very intuitively into the areas that need a little bit more of that love and care, and not just kind of this one size fits all. I'm going to get in there and I'm just going to scratch and scrub your head, and then I'm going to put the conditioner on, and then like it is what you offer is so very bespoke and so very beautiful. And one of the things that I do love is that even in a haircut that you do give people this quickie little like minute or two to themselves, where you like put your little like jade eye mask on, and then like wrap my head in a towel, and you have your essential oils that you put on your hands and you kind of put in front of my face so I can have this really calming, wonderful, lovely, grounding scent that you can just take like a really big deep breath in and take that moment to yourself to just kind of unwind. And I think it's so important too for so many people who especially like are really high performing, or they work at a desk all day where they are really tied up in the shoulders and the neck, to be able to have that moment of like, I can just like let the weight of my head relax over the back of the bowl and like really allow the shoulders to drop, the back of the neck to kind of get that stretch that it never otherwise gets, to even like open up through the front of the heart chakra, as you're kind of leaning back ever so slightly in the bowl. But it's like, it's not so much that it's strenuous, obviously, but it's just enough that it's like you can just feel it and notice it. And I imagine that there are so many people who would also notice uh, like maybe their legs are starting to kind of loosen up. Maybe they feel that tightness they've been holding at, the base of their root chakra and their tailbone. Maybe they feel that start to kind of release and unwind, and just all of the ways that you integrate all of these different energetic practices and you weave them with your physical touch, with your essential oils, with the products that you use. It's all like this really, like, I'm always just so inspired and so like, man, this girl knows what the fuck she's doing. It's like every single thing is so intentional and woven together so perfectly.
I really appreciate that. And I feel like what I offer up to this point and has been just like a collection of prior services I've had done by other people, or even just seeing things of other people doing. And immediately where you look at something and you're like, that's a yes, like, yes. And like, or, oh, that felt really good for me. Or like times where I've gone to practitioners and they've done, there's always a couple things you take with you. And sometimes a lot of times I feel it's not even like the bulk of the service. It's like this one little thing that stuck out to you that you were like, oh, that was like the chef's kiss of like, that was, it felt so good for whatever reason. And like, that may be the reason you go see someone again. And so, like you said, for haircuts or color, yeah, there's people in here, it's definitely not like a quiet moment. Maybe you're lucky enough it's kind of a quiet moment, where not a lot going on. But I always like to put on a crystal eye mask and a hot towel, even if it's for 2 minutes, because sometimes it is just 2 minutes. And I use all different kinds of essential oil roll-on blends. And yeah, it's a little sweet pause, a little sweet moment, and it may only be 3 minutes, but I really feel those, to learn to even acknowledge that all it has to take is like maybe a minute or 3 minutes to really just like recenter, feel good again. And these are things we can do with ourselves. Yes, it's so great when someone else does it for you, but it's like a reminder of like, oh, I can be like romantic and sweet with myself on a daily basis, or even just, I was talking with my other guests, even just like romanticizing and being whimsical with your everyday life, whether it's the lighting you have in your house or just like the bedding or the curtains or like special little glowy lamps, anything like that, where you're just like, oh, I just feel like I'm in this like special place. And, whatever that means to you, it's like your things in your daily life can look like that. It's not 100% and it's not supposed to be, but like little things like that, or even how you pour your tea in the morning, or like recently I have a special candle from one of my friend's aunts that she made. And so like, and I got this special electric tea kettle recently. And so sometimes, it's not every day, but sometimes I will light that candle before I turn on all the lights. I will start to brew my tea. And oh my gosh, just to like, it sounds so silly and people talk about it all the time. But until you do these things yourself, then it's visceral, it's a lived experience. Like it's not just intellectually understanding somebody talking about something. When you do whatever that looks like to you, maybe it's a certain way you fold your bed, maybe it's folding your bed and spraying a little essential oil spray on it, whatever. It can be anything, but just those little things that can take a minute or two is like, wow, that feels good. And I think weaving more of that into our life and not discounting it.
Yeah, yeah, so huge, especially for the high performers of the world, which is most of them,
Yes.
right? It's like
Which is most of us, which
it's
is most
most
of
of
us, right?
us, yeah, like, regardless of whatever
Yeah.
your job title is, even if your job title is stay-at-home mom, like, you are a high performer, and
Yes.
and that
Absolutely.
requires a lot of you. Like, the world is asking more of us now than it ever has before, and that also inherently means that it becomes more important that we accept the ownership and the responsibility of creating those little daily rituals for ourselves and making sure that we are pouring back into ourselves. And it, like, when you say it out loud, I think a lot of people would easily discount, like, oh, I don't just pull the covers back over my bed and like there my bed is made, but just to take a second to take a deep breath while you're doing that. And yeah, to spray your essential oils, or just to have a specific way that, like, in the morning, like, I refuse to go do anything else until I have at least taken a couple of like really big deep breaths, and then just, whether I'm still laying in bed or whether I'm out of bed and already making my bed and moving, but to be kind of like coming back into my head and my heart space about a couple of things that I'm really grateful for that day, and just noticing, maybe I notice like the specific way that the light comes in through the window and it bounces through this crystal and it creates these tiny cute little rainbows on the wall. Like, just to notice that, and to be like, wow, that's so beautiful. Like, it might be cold and gray and gross outside, but if I can notice these little things, or have like the sense of the essential oils, or if I can take a moment to just breathe deeply into my body and allow that kind of sensory experience of allowing myself to relax and receive a little bit more, that makes such a difference in how we move through the day and how we move through the world at large.
It does incredibly. And like how like our nervous systems, which that's something that's been in the forefront of my mind, I would say, for most of my adult life, because even in like school or, in my 20s, like I definitely had, crippling anxiety physically for like many of those years. And it was such a, I feel like each of us has our thing like that, right? Where we are kind of like meant to experience these things. So we know the depth of how it feels to be there and the importance of just like listening to yourself. And like it takes you on this little breadcrumb path of, because then you start maybe looking at this area of your life or like listening, reading this book or listening to this podcast. And you find out so much about yourself, but you're collecting all this and your lived experience. That way, at some point, when you give your gifts to the world, whether it's, through offering services, or maybe it's just how you greet the person that's checking your groceries or handing you your coffee. I mean, simple things like that. You don't have to be a service provider, but just like you said, how you move in the world, like you have that depth of lived visceral experience that you can meet somebody then where they can just feel from you, oh, you've been there in your own way, and now like I like can trust like maybe things that you're telling me, and not that what worked for me is going to work for you, but no, however, maybe it's something you could try this, you could try this, and maybe just one of those things might help you a little bit, and then you kind of trail off into this other direction, and it's something you can really feel.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You can feel it on both sides, right? You can feel it, like you said, at the depth of like, this is where I've been and this is the depth of my challenge. And not that it's even necessarily about the challenge itself, but it's like this has been the depth of my experience and the way that the challenge has affected me in my life. And then on the other side, being to really feel um, the way that we choose to move through the world so differently because of how deeply affected we were, right?
Yeah, and I think something that you're saying is just making me think of, it's so easy to stay in that narrative and be like, oh, I'm going to use anxiety because that's what I'm talking about. I am anxiety. I am these things. And you then become imprisoned
Yeah.
in your own, we hear the word victim mindset and stuff, which I know can be very like unsettling to hear that to some people. And depending at what stage you're at, like, yeah, like everyone needs to go through their own process in their own way. And you only can be at where you're at, right?
Mhm.
But to stay there and just label yourself and put yourself in a box of like, oh, this is, I am this, I have this, like your cells can hear you, so
Yes.
then you are just keeping yourself held back basically, instead of like, transmuting that into like fresh perspective, growth, and like, okay, now I can see a little higher on the mountain, which is where the term, kind of higher self comes in from so many other mentors that I listen to, and just how I view that perception is you're up here where you have a more bird's eye view of what's going on, and it's not so narrow focused on like, oh, I'm like stuck in this, like you can see like more what's going on, and also realize that these things happen to us basically as it's supposed to be there. It's a communication system, and so it's like, hey, look over here, and not something to be afraid of or just cover up, but like transmute that, where it's like, this is happening because you're supposed to like work in this area, and like basically not resist it and push it away. That was like such a big takeaway from me. Or I love when Ram Dass, you listen to Ram
I
Dass?
do. Yes, I love Ram
Yeah.
Dass.
I love Ram Dass. Something that always stuck with me that he always talks about is like, whatever neurosis that it is, right? Because we all have it. That's part of being human.
Mhm.
And so to not like, oh no, like if I'm at this certain level of spirituality, like I'm not going to have any of that is really a falsity. It's like it's still there.
Yeah.
But
Being
you're
more spiritual
learning.
doesn't make you less human.
Right. You're both. Yeah. It to be the most high, whatever, wherever you're at is like to really be in the world and but not of the world, as we've heard. But to take your neuroses and instead of like denying them, acting as if they don't exist or resisting them, because whatever we resist persists. We've heard that.
Mhm.
Inviting it in for tea. And I love when, I'm sure you've heard it say that.
Mhm.
Just taking, in this example, taking in, the anxiety, invite it in for tea and be like, hey, like kind of like, what's going on here? And like not call it wrong or like, because at some level it is like a protection system inside and being like, hey, it's kind of like an alarm and like, you can bring your focus here and to not just be like, oh no, you can't be here, because then it actually magnifies it and then it kind of takes over you. And like that is when it becomes your identity and you just don't know what to do. So anyways, all that to say, like, yeah, that's for sure weaved into how I offer services here. And you can't make someone feel anything, where it's like, oh, I want to make you feel comfortable. Like it's more like you create an environment, you create an atmosphere physically in your space. Um, Again, Ram Dass always talks about your internal landscape of like the more work you do with yourself, the more you can clear out all the BS, all the stuff you think you are that you're actually not. When you clear that out to the extent that you can, and you are an open, spacious environment for others, that's when someone can truly exhale and be like, oh, okay, I don't have to like hold up this, my personality, or it's like, oh, you can actually be like, oh, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it what's so interesting to me is like I feel so many people in the world these days are so like they understand that there's a lot to do, right? And I think that the kind of misnomer is that there's a lot to do out there and not that there's a lot to do in here, right? And that in order to be who you're trying to be, it doesn't actually require you to do more out here. It requires you to be more in here, to be present more in here. And it reminds me so much of um, Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh. Are you familiar with him as well? Yeah, he
Yes.
like in his book True Love, he talks about how like kind of rule number 1 of true love is that true love is being there. And he talks about it, of course, in the context of like, well, if I am truly to understand how I can best love you, then I must be there with you, right? I must be present with you in order to hear the things that you're saying and understand you more and to feel into who you are, right? But in my practice at the time that I read this book, I had actually just kind of gone through a pretty challenging breakup with the guy who was my fiance at the time, and my sister had actually gifted me that book when we got engaged as like an engagement present, and uh, and I just didn't feel called to read it at that time, and it wasn't until I just kind of finally, I guess, acknowledged the fact that things just were never going to be as solid and stable and safe with him as I had kind of always hoped that they would be, and sat down with him one day and said, "Hey, you just don't really love me, do you?" And he was completely silent. He had nothing to say. And so it was like, okay, well, then obviously we're going to call off this marriage and I'm going to move out. And so I got my own apartment. And then as I was unpacking my things in my own apartment, I saw this book, True Love by Thich Nhat Hanh. And I was like, well, it would have been great for me to read that like 6 months ago. But here we are. And I recognize that this is still happening in its own divine timing and purpose. And so as I'm reading this, I'm like, oh, this is the kind of love that I need to give to myself right now. Like, this is right? Like, I need to be there with myself right now more than I ever have. And thank God that I took the time previously to recognize all of those cues that I was getting from my body and those emotions, right? Because as you were just saying, like, the the emotions, however good or bad, they seem to create an experience. There's no rightness or wrongness about them, and there really isn't actually goodness or badness about them either. They're all just signals, right? Like happiness is just a signal that things are flowing and they're working out and they're going well for you right now. And at the same time, like anger, fear, sadness, those are all just signals that things that you really care about are not flowing. They're not coming to fruition right now. That things are perhaps not adding up in the ways that you thought that they would, or somewhere in there you're feeling constricted and more stringent as opposed to safe and expansive about something. But it's all tied to the things that we inherently care about most, right? Which is unique and different to everybody, and such a beautiful experience to be around people who are so like you, who are so aware of those things that do bring them so much happiness and fulfillment in life, but that we will never really be able to move through the world in the ways that we want if we don't invite our monsters in for tea and sit down. And Thich Nhat Hanh also, like in a similar way, just to create a different sort of reference point, Thich Nhat Hanh says to look at them like it's a crying baby, right? And like your feelings are kind of your babies, like they are your responsibility. And any mom who would hear her baby crying would run to her baby and say, "Baby, why are you crying?" Right? And it's kind of no different. Like you need to hold your baby and say, "Why are you crying? Like what's going on? How can we fix this?" It's not something to run away from or to shy away from or to be more afraid of. It's something that just needs your attention a little bit more. And I think that what you do and the way that you do it creates such a wonderful opportunity to remind people that not only is it so righteous and sacred for them to care for themselves in such a beautiful way while they are with you, but to also leave knowing that it's really not that hard or that complicated to take care of themselves above and beyond once they leave, right?
Yeah, it's another, you know, invitation or be like, oh wow, okay, I like how that was. And if they want to go home and do stuff like that, they can, or, they can come here and experience that, and maybe one day like a little seed is planted. Um, but back to what you were saying about transience, basically, is an interview that I watched with a bunch of actors, and Tom Hanks was on it, and I think they were all going around talking about like what was some advice or something that like stood out to you, now looking at your life, that was told to you. And he basically said, I'm trying to think of how he said it, but like when things are going, you from your view, great in life, all good, everything is so good, this too shall pass.
I've heard
When
that
things are
interview.
at their low, yeah, you did,
Yeah, it's
when things
so
are at
good.
their lowest and they're like just not going the way you want it to go, or just like you're not liking what's happening in your life, this too shall pass. You saw that too. I think it was Robert De Niro and other actors. It was like some round table discussion,
Yeah.
and I don't even know how I found it, but I'm not surprised that we're both sitting here saying we watched
Yeah.
it. So, and when he's yeah, so that obviously stuck out to me, and I love that he said that, because Michael Singer talks about that a lot too. The Untethered Soul,
Mhm.
you're familiar with. That was actually my first spiritual book that was like kind of gifted to me way back. Trying to think when that was. Maybe that was like 2016, something like that. But I listen to his podcast all the time, and just it's not about what happens to you, it's about what you do with what happens. And it's not supposed life is not supposed to be like everything is going my way and that you can manifest everything is going my way. And yes, we we're all manifestors, whether we know it or not. Like we are calling things into our life and connecting to certain things in our life. That is happening,
Mhm.
whether consciously or unconsciously. But it's not like, oh, manifest that everything goes my way all the time. That doesn't exist. It's not supposed to happen because we're on this school called Earth,
Yeah.
the Earth School. And like we are here to see contrast. And this is how we learn through experiences. And like, again, like it's not about everything going your way. It's like, how are you handling what's going on in your life? And know that it is always in flow. You're either going upstream or downstream. So you can either be in flow and know that the tide is going to turn always. Always, always, always. There's one thing for certain, everything changes, right? In life, and it's meant to. Or you can go up current, upstream, and be fighting with life all the time and be more suffering and more pain than it needs to be. And you can magnify that too. And you can. And there's nothing wrong. If you want to do that, by gosh, you can do that.
Mm.
And like that's what we were given is like free will. Like you get to choose. Like there's bare, bare minimum rules of like the game of life where like we all kind of agree to certain base things because we're all here on earth. But like how we play the game is up to us and like how we want to experience this life and incarnation. We are in the driver's seat and we can, but like you said, there really is no outside. It is all everything. How we view the world, how we experience the world, how it comes in is through the filter of what's going on inside of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Period.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So it's just like you were saying earlier, it's so important to recognize the language that you're using inside of yourself when it comes to that, right? Because if you just sit and you say like, I'm anxious, I'm depressed, I'm too busy, right? Whatever it is that you are saying you are, your body doesn't know the difference between what you are and what you're feeling if you express it that way. And it's so important that we recognize the difference between saying, I am anxious versus I'm feeling kind of anxious today.
Yeah,
Or,
I experience
yeah.
is a different way to switch it because you're not labeling it or claiming it as that's you. It's something you're experiencing, which is very real.
Yeah.
Very, very real. But you're not identifying as like that is me. Because it's like, no, you are not depression, ADHD, anxiety. You are not those things. You are having an experience,
Mm-hmm.
a very strong, real experience of that, but you are not that. And it creates some distance.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, to be able to go higher up the mountain. I love how you said that. Like higher self is to go higher up the mountain and just to get like a bigger, more broader kind of bird's eye view, a higher viewpoint of like what's going on. And ultimately it requires you to develop this really comfortable level of detachment in order to
Yeah.
do that, right? To be able to be like, oh, hang on. I'm overwhelmed. There's a lot going on. Time out. Let me detach from this, zoom out, and look at
Zoom
all of
out.
the pieces and what's going on with it, right?
Right. And it's usually, I find that life is a bit more of, we like to, again, label things or say this is wrong or that's right. And we all have our opinions on that. And like, that's again part of being human. But I think just realizing the flexibility within that of like, that's because it's your lived experience. And that's why, like there's really very few things that are definitively right and definitively wrong. Like there are some things, right? But it's like there are some things we could probably mostly all agree on. But it's oh, I had something there, but it left my mind, which is fine. Maybe it'll come back with
Yeah.
what you were saying.
Yeah, some things are definitively right and definitively wrong, but those things really have a lot more to do with natural law than they have to do with human paradigm.
Right.
And I love that there is an even greater power in detaching your identity from your feelings, not just in terms of being able to say, oh, I'm feeling anxious today, or I'm feeling anxious in this situation, and then to be able to it then gives you the choice, right? Then it puts the power, your own power of choice, back in your hands, where instead of balling up, in the corner and just shutting the world out when you say, oh, like, well, this situation makes me anxious. Well, now you can choose how to look at it differently or approach it differently or go do something, leave it entirely and go do something completely different. But in the same breath, kind of how we were saying earlier, to create these things in our lives that add so much happiness too, right? It's like it's so important too that we also recognize the signals of like, oh, but when I'm at Cosmic Aura and I open the door and I look up and I see those adorable Harry Potter candle lights, like that makes me so happy. And I swear to God, I'm going to buy them and I'm going to put them up somewhere in my room maybe and have it as like a fun kind of nightlight or something. And whatever it is that it's the way, like you said, the way you pour your tea in the morning, or it's when you go certain places and you're like, oh, that artwork just like really speaks to me, or you notice there's certain colors or whatever it is, like those sparks of fulfillment and inspiration and creativity and fun and joyfulness and happiness, that it's like it's not that hard to bring more of that stuff into your everyday life, just to romanticize it and be like, yep, I get to go home where like my kitchen cabinets are dark green and I have Harry Potter lights on the ceiling.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like why would you
Yeah.
not do that? And then in the same breath, whether those signals are telling you that there's an anxiousness or there's a happiness, we don't have to get married to any of that. That's, I think, maybe kind of where you were going with that last statement. It's like the impermanence of it, right? Like it
Yeah.
made me anxious before and it kind of does it now, or that made me happy for a while and it just kind of does it now.
Oh, right. Like allowing yourself to evolve and to basically like change avatars of yourself basically, and not being so hard pressed to like, well, this is what I used to like before and I got to stay that way because people are going to expect that of me. But it's like, and that really makes people uncomfortable.
It does.
Like I've had, yes, like because we, again, I don't think it's things we do on purpose, but we're just kind of, and it's ingrained in us of like, we want to put you in a corner over here, you in a corner over here of like, you are a person that acts like this, you talk like this, you wear things like this. I would expect this behavior out of you. And as soon as you do something different, they're like, wait, I don't like that because you're not in the corner I put you in.
Yeah.
Or like, I have a guest that a friend also that like comes to see me for hair, and once in a while she likes to put on these fun like temporary like tattoo sleeves because it's fun,
Yeah.
why not? And so, and she also owns a gym, and a couple of her clients had some very strong opinions on that, being like, I don't like that you do that, that's not you. And I just kind of laugh with her about it because I'm like, see, it's making them uncomfortable because you're moving into a different corner than they put you in. Like, I don't view you as somebody who would do that. And it's like, that's the point. Like, that's so fun. And like, you're shedding different layers, you're evolving into different versions of yourself because like you're not one thing. You're not even five things. You infinite possibilities, and that's like what we're here to explore and play with and have fun. And it's malleable, and like just you're basically trying on different, not that you I mean, I know there's like a vast spectrum of like, then maybe there's somebody that has like, dissociative identity disorder that's like a totally but that's different than what I'm talking
Yeah,
about. Like,
completely
we're
different.
just having fun. Yeah, you're just like having fun and you're trying on different hats and you're like, oh, I'm gonna dress maybe like this, or like just going with what you're attracted to, what lights you up, what sparks interest in you. Like basically that's another indicator or a directional signal of like, this is meant for you. Because I think we've talked about Bashar
Hmm.
before, and I love how he talks about that everything is a permission slip in life, that there is nothing like this works always for these people, or this is like, XYZ. That basically anything in your inner compass of like what kind of lights up your heart's fire, what creates a little spark and excitement, that means that's meant for you at like a soul level.
Hmm.
And that's the directional signal of like what's meant for you. And like anything, whether it's a ritual like pouring tea, whether it's a yoga asana practice, whether it's, you name it, like anything that kind of lights you up, they're all permission slips. Maybe it's playing with oracle cards, maybe it's I'm drawing a blank, but just like so many different things. Like if you're attracted to it, that basically is again a permission slip for you to be more you, connect to your, you know, true unique signature essence of like who you are, and like that's meant for you. And it's not supposed to be for everyone. There's like 8.3 billion people currently on this earth. So there's many different pathways. There's infinite amount of permission slips of like just to be more authentically you, and it's not going to look like that for anybody else that's here. Like it's your signature frequency, and that's what's fun. And to not like, oh, everyone else has to do this or you're going to fail at life, you know, it's like that doesn't exist. That's not a real thing. And it's, you know, it's like no. And the more specific you are to yourself, the more niched you are with yourself and real as you can possibly be, the more people are going to find you. The people that are kind of on the same wavelength, as we say, you are going to attract each other and you're just going to come together. And that has just become so, especially opening the space here, that has become so pronounced and magnified. And it's been so cool to see like us building this space together, Caitlin and I, and just we had the same vision, very much so. And like the type of people that have been drawn here, like you know, to just, yeah, just by doing more things that you enjoy, things that you like to do. And like, that's all that you have to do. And like the right people are going to find you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I would add on to that too, like something that I notice in a very growing way, in a very amplified way, is that so many more women, especially, but even men too, are really coming into their conscious awareness that they are lit up by so many things, that in fact we are not just like, oh, I'm just spiritual, or oh, I'm just pragmatic, or oh, I'm just systematic, or oh, I'm just an accountant, right? Like we're all actually multidimensional beings emitting the frequencies of all the things that light us up. But to to the point that you're making is like it's your own, I like to say, your own unique kind of magic potion. It's like your own unique magic brew of all of those things coming together in the way that you specifically synthesize them or coalesce them together into who you are, that creates your own unique signature frequency. And like the world just needs so much more of that.
Yeah, it's your own expression. Nobody can do what you do the way you do it. The more you integrate into yourself of like all the things, and what we were talking about early on is, you know, the things that we maybe don't love, that we, you know, initial reaction is like push away. Actually, in, I don't know, the word completion is coming to mind, is, or being more of you is actually joining that in, integrating this and that. You don't ever get rid of it. It's there, and it just becomes more harmonious once you like kind of accept, like, okay, like this was a part of my experience for a reason, and it's not cutting it off. It's not getting rid of it. That's not real.
Mm-hmm.
And it will become more at peace once you bring it in with everything else within you. And that's, I think, like the truest way to talk about it that I can understand at this point, and like my lived experience and mentors that I listen to. It's always about coming together, unifying, and that is like what we're here to do in so many different ways, I think. And the more we can do that within ourselves, again, you're more in touch with your wholeness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then other people can feel that, and it's kind of like a magnification. Maybe we're all mirrors to each other, right? So we're all mirroring like our internal self to everybody else. So maybe somebody sees that in you of like, wow, like you feel like really good to be around, or you feel like you don't let a whole lot stir you up, or like you're kind of like, I want that, like what does that look like for me, you know?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and I get that. I'm sure you probably do too, but I know that's a thing I actually get kind of a lot of is that whole like, well, you're so unbothered. And I always look at those people and say, yeah, because I know exactly what it feels like to be bothered by absolutely everything. And I chose differently. Like I hated that feeling. I hated that feeling of like every little thing makes me so irritated or I'm so irked by the traffic or you know even the big things, like I know that I've spoken to you before about how my the last boyfriend I had, he passed away in a car crash in 2020 very suddenly, right? Yeah, I know exactly what it feels like to be super bothered, to not be able to go 5 minutes without bawling my eyes out. I know exactly what it feels like to be stewing in grief for days and hours and weeks on ends. Like us who are kind of what other people might say is like unbothered or unfuckwithable or however you want to say it. It's
Because you've been through it.
it's only
Because
because
you've
we've
been
been
through
really,
it.
really bothered and instead of resisting the bothering, exactly, we have invited it in for tea and been like, all right, this isn't a thing that I can really resist, but also with enough
Yeah.
practice of allowing that integration period and not resisting the uncomfortable feelings or experiences of life, the more you do that, the more you see like, oh, this was really happening in order to elevate me in this new way that I wouldn't maybe have gained this wisdom or this perspective or this new part of my own embodiment and who I choose to be if that really challenging thing hadn't happened.
Yeah, I think that's why they call it, like, when you hear the term ascending, is like when you've experienced those things in your life and you've integrated them, learned the lessons that were needed to learn. It's almost like in a video game, because life is a lot like a video game. It's like, oh, next level. Like, oh, I ascended to my next era, my next level, and you have more tools. You have more, like how, when you get a new character in a video game, like, oh, now I have this, and now I can use this. Like, I think it's really relatable, and that is, it's like fun to think about it like that, and it truly is on some level like that, and it's cool.
Yeah, it really is. And like some of the tools that you had already, you were able to take to the blacksmith and get them sharpened up and maybe you got
Right,
a bigger shield now.
you can use them more efficiently. You're like, oh, now I know that this actually has multiple purposes. I can use it for this, I can use it for this, and so you're just, yeah,
Yeah.
being more
Yeah, I love
efficient.
that. Uh-huh. Well,
But it's kind of another like quote from Bashar, is that his take on things that we do, things that we like to call a habit aren't actually habits. So something that you do that you don't know that you're doing, basically, that is a habit. When you know you're doing something, it becomes a choice.
yeah.
And from that place, when I first heard him say it like that, I was like, wow, talk about empowering, and talk about like it comes back to you, where like instead of being like, oh, that's something that just happens that I do, it's like, no, you're actually choosing to do that.
Mhm.
And it can feel a little icky, kind of pointing the finger maybe at first, but really it comes down to being like, oh, then what that really means is like I get to choose different
Yeah.
if I want to.
Yeah.
If I want to, I can choose differently and like reroute basically. And like those little switch ups that you make, it's kind of like that 1 degree, like really can alter your path of like or just how you're experiencing life and direction.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think especially in this day and age of having so much access to so much free wisdom and information everywhere we go, it's almost like you would you would, at least I would, kind of expect people to see that more clearly, or perhaps to see more people coming into that consciousness more frequently, that that they are choosing so much more. And yet, going back to what you said about, it's kind of this victim mindset of just saying like, well, I am anxious, or I am this, and like there's no way to change it, when in fact I do think that one of the many benefits that we have to being able to be so connected in a digital age is that that proves you so wrong. It proves you like you can read books, you can find podcasts, you can go almost anywhere, and if you are looking for it and you're truly ready to receive it, the universe is going to find a way to like lay that right in your lap.
Yeah, exactly. Like it is very, you come into your like authentic power when you realize those things of like, oh, I get to decide and I get to determine like how what I want to do with my life basically, and the little things really add up, over time. So it's not something, I think we're just so used to being told you're this way, kind of like what we were saying before, like you're this way, or we do that. The other thing is we do that to other people a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And the more we're like, oh, they'll never change, they've always been that way, they'll always be that way, the more you hold other people to that standard is how you're holding yourself to that same exact thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. If you don't allow anybody else in your own circle to really kind of change and evolve and go higher, it's only a reflection of the fact that you're not allowing yourself to do that.
Absolutely. Like that's a way that you're holding yourself back, the way we get in our own way and the way we feel stuck and stagnant is, totally look at how you talk about other people and vice versa. If you even listen to like how you talk to yourself consciously, I mean, there's like a bajillion thoughts going on in your head all the time, and I think it's easy to get into like labeling them, like you were saying, like positive, negative, this and that. I think for the most part it's better to just kind of, again, create that distance of like almost like a meditation of like realizing that you are not your thoughts. Yes, they can affect you and affect different emotions, but creating that distance of like, here in a little box I can see over there, those are my thoughts, and really who I actually am is back here being the witness, observing the thoughts. And like I don't have to go with them, I'm basically observing them, like, oh, here's this neurotic thought, or oh, here's this nice fluffy thought, or here this is like, all these different kinds, and it's like none of those are me, they're just something I'm observing. And really who I am at the deepest level is back here neutrally observing.
Mm-hmm.
So just creating that distance where it's, again, that bird's eye view of just being empowered and knowing what you were saying, like we're really are so multi-dimensional with like infinite possibility, and that's one of the most magical things about life, I feel.
It so is. It so is, because when you do realize that you have the power to choose your feelings and choose how you respond to everyday situations in your life, that also means that you get to not only have that separation of your feelings from your identity, that also means inherently that you do get to choose who you want to be. And you do get to choose what you actually want to value. I know for me, that was one of the biggest kind of like aha moments I had. I don't know, however many, several 10, 12 years ago now, that I had that revelation of like, it's not just the beliefs and it's not just the identity, but I think your values kind of lie somewhere in that in between space of like, I get to embody what I truly value. And so if I do truly value my own growth and development and ascension, then that means I get to live in such a way that kind of puts that at the forefront. And that also means that I no longer have to associate with anything or anybody that is kind of like energetically vampiric in nature.
Yeah, like choosing who you spend your time with on a regular basis is can be very strengthening and supportive. And then also to have the capacity to be around people that you don't exactly vibe with and to still be steady in that seat of just like, I can handle this. This is okay too. And the more we actually let, and we all know this, I know this very well myself as well as, everybody does. So I'm saying this to myself too, but like the people outside of us that kind of really get our goats, they really get us going, or using the word triggered, and like we act like that's something they're doing to us. On one level, yes, we can talk about that. On the on another higher level, we're allowing them to do that to us. And from that space, again, you can tap more into your like true authentic power of like, I don't have to let them get to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something we're choosing, which can be really kind of, to hear, but like really, when you can look at it for face value of that, it's like, wow, okay, like basically I'm giving my power away when I let somebody stir me up that much, and when you're talking about bigger life things and issues, sure, you're probably going to feel that more. But I'm talking about the little things, like you said, the traffic, or like when somebody just does something you don't like. And like the degree in which we let that stir us up on the inside is like, you're just throwing yourself, you're letting yourself be thrown around all over the place. And like, we're letting that happen. So having that realization of like, I can even notice that. And even once you can notice that, you can interrupt the pattern, and you can know, like, once you see yourself kind of going there, you can kind of pause and stop and go, okay, hold on. I don't have to go there. I can be more centered and sturdy in the seat of myself, in my, you know, authentic power, and not go with that. Like, they don't have to stir me up like that. And like, just kind of see them as like, they're just doing what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And not that you stick around for somebody to like beat you up or something, or like be really like verbally abusive to you. We're not talking that level. We're just saying like, regular, just being annoyed by people. And it's like, you can really just kind of let it go,
Mm-hmm.
and then you are stronger for it. And they can maybe let go of their act a little bit too, because again, we're all having like mass, and our fun role that we're playing in life and in society, maybe they'll drop their act just a little bit if you're not angsting them up, where you can kind of be like, okay, and then they're like, oh, I'm not getting the reaction I want, okay.
Yeah.
You just kind of play, there's all different scenarios, but just having that awareness is, I think, really valuable.
Yeah, definitely. Even when I worked in corporate, I remember I remember kind of like playing that game with people. So like so many people in around the office would get so stirred up about, maybe decisions that are coming from higher level. Like, oh, can you believe that we're just stopping this project altogether and completely moving in a different, and they're like all, they're all wrapped up about it, whatever the decision is. And I'm like, well, not my circus, not my monkeys. Like, and like,
My mother-in-law says that all the time, and it's so true. And I do repeat it because it is not not my circus, not my monkeys. And it's such another permission slip to basically be like, that has nothing to do with me.
yeah, it doesn't. And even my husband now, like, because he's a federal worker and the government has shut down for 3 weeks or whatever now, I know that he has been saying how it's been kind of the same thing around the office. Like, so many people are just getting so like up in arms about things, and super like stressing out about all these things that they can't control. And he's just like, okay, well, it is what it is. And then today, like, all of the systems went down, and he was like, well, I guess I'm gonna go home then. Like, like, what are you gonna do? Like, if
Perfect.
there's nothing that you can realistically do about things that are outside of your control, then the best thing you can do is control your response to it.
Yeah, exactly. Like not go along with it. And I love that you said it is what it is, because that is something my mom always would say. And I still hear her in my mind and my heart say it all the time, and it rings so true. She was like such like a wise Tibetan Lama or something, in like another life of hers, because that was always what she said. Well, it is what it is. You can't change it. And yeah, she was so true about that. And I think it's like, right, anything that's outside of you, you're not supposed to control. And like, right, what do you do with it on the inside? And not that I think people get confused with like surrender or relaxing into that as like, oh, you just let people walk all over you. It's like, no, like if there's action that needs to be taken, then you're actually doing it from a place of clarity, not from a place of chaos and reaction.
Yeah.
It's from a place of like, this is a pretty neutral ish outlook, and like, okay, what, if anything, needs to be done? What is mine to do in this situation to evolve out of, through it? And that is like, yeah, then you're actually the most helpful to everybody else around you too. Because
Yes.
when you're going off of your automatic responses of like, and we know we fall into that. It's part of being human, but you kind of catch yourself more. You notice it more. You're like, oh, huh, look what I just did. Like you can see, watch yourself do it. And like, because you have these different levels of awareness you're playing with, like these different channels on like, your TV, they're all happening at the same time. It's just, what are you tuned into?
Uh-huh.
And so like, you just watch yourself do it and you can kind of fall back a little easier. You're like, oh, I see what I just did there. And like, you can redirect from there. And like, it's just like kind of, that's part of it. It's not like you're, oh, always in this. No, there's no always. Like you're kind of, we're all wiggles, and like that's what we're all doing here. We're all vibrating. We're all like moving around. Like nothing, not even a rock is still. Like it's all moving. It's all fluctuating. It's all ripples.
Right, right. And I love how you brought that up, that there is always the choice to just redirect the ripples. There's always just the choice to recognize, like, well, if I stop giving my energy to this, then I have it available to give to this other thing. And it reminds me so much of when I was really actively training in martial arts. One of the kind of concepts or paradigms that we talked about was what we called the conservation of energy. And it comes from like in a martial way of like, I could, in a given battle type situation, for example, right, I could pull out all of my weapons and I could start flailing around, and I could start throwing punches left, right, and center. I could get like all into the mix, and I could get my brain thinking that I have to respond and react to like every single thing that's around me. Or I can practice the conservation of energy and recognize that if I just shift the way that I'm moving ever so slightly, both moving my mind and moving my body, that if I can be more focused with it, then I can actually drive the results that I need to drive. When I was not training in martial arts and simultaneously working in my corporate job, I started to see the parallel there of like, well, if I stop giving my energy to, all of the chaos that other people get wrapped around, and if I stop believing that I have to have some kind of like a wonderful response to every person that comes to me that wants to vent about the things that are, stressing them out about the way that the company's making decisions, like if I stop believing that I have to actually be some kind of foundational rock for these people, or if I stop believing that I have to have all the right answers, if I just kind of let go of my need to drive any of my energy in that direction, therefore I have the energy to give to the changes that I can actually affect.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally see what you're saying there. And I feel that too, because where you place your attention is where you place your energy, and whether it's positive or negative, it grows and you are amplifying it. So one
Yeah.
way or the other.
Yeah, and so many people, unfortunately, again, really common for high performers, especially, right? That like they go home at the end of the day just being so exhausted. And it's so unfortunate because there's so much potential for everyone to do so much good in the world. But a lot of the good will never come to fruition if we're too busy, like feeding our energy and our attention into all the things that we can't control.
Overconsumption of, right, just our busy minds on our devices. And I don't think our devices are inherently negative or bad. It's a tool like anything, and it can be used, properly and with abundance, or it can be used and abused, like anything. So yeah, I think everything that we're accepting into our minds, of every little video we watch, every little, the amount, a little bit of mindless looking at stuff is fine. But you think being really honest with ourselves and looking in the mirror, like, how much of this, how much time is this taking in my life that I'm giving it away? Because our attention is one of our most, it's the largest currency, like our attention, that we give it away for free all the time, and it's so valuable. It's like you said, kind of leaking our energy out here and maybe just taking in too much mindless stuff that's not adding to anything towards what is actually interesting to us, and it's just taking up rent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And even when it comes to the way that we're consuming on socials, I think it's also really important that we see that there's kind of that neutral of like, oh, I'm just looking at things just to give myself like a brain break. But then to notice when the brain break becomes the jealousy. Is the content that you're consuming, is it aspiring you to make the changes that you want to make in your life, or is it just making you jealous of what you don't have?
Right. Or is it just empty and it's not fueling you in any way?
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Discernment is such a big thing, right?
Yeah, it's huge. It's everything. It's your inner barometer of like, how much is enough? Finding that like balance, of like, okay, we're very resilient. We're very capable to handle so many things. But like when things start to get out of whack and out of line, that's when our little alarm systems start to go off. And it's like a little invitation to be like, maybe take a look at this, like maybe like look at, what have you been up to? What are you doing with yourself? What are you choosing?
Yeah, yeah. And so again, like I said kind of at the beginning, like it's to me it's so much more important now more than ever that we not only reactively give ourselves these opportunities to kind of break away from everything and find ways that we can recalibrate, but that we do that proactively. And so like one of the things that I love about coming to you, whether it is just for a haircut or something a little bit more, something a little bit extra, is that it is for me that proactive time of like I'm going to be here for an hour with Shelby, allowing myself to receive this little bit of Reiki energy and having the warm towel on my head and the jade eye mask on, and like really being super intentional and mindful that that I'm scheduling in these times through the day, through the week, through the month, through the quarter, through the year, that is like, hey, this is time for Lauren to make sure that Lauren is staying calibrated to Lauren's truths and what Lauren wants out of her life, and not anybody else's.
Yeah, refueling and reconnecting. I mean, we're always connected and we're always loved and supported from my view, but it's when do you realize? So it's, I think, just coming home to the fact, of the feeling of connection with yourself, with all that is, with the life force of your own understanding, and just like feeling that interweb of, that it's all connected. It's all one, and like you're a part of that. You're not separate from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I know, yeah, I know you listen to Jay Shetty as well, right?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
his podcast On Purpose. Like I remember so specifically an episode where um he had just come back from his annual 3-week kind of vacation, I guess, where at the beginning of every year, the first 3 weeks of every year, he goes back to the monastery that
Oh,
he
I didn't know
lived
he did
in.
that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he talked about how he spends 3 weeks there at the beginning of every single year, and that is his intentional kind of recalibration time. And and in the episode he said, like, for all of the celebrities and podcasters and everyone else that he's kind of been acquainted with and become friends with, are always like, man, how can you afford, like, even when you're making so much money, or when you're again expected to show up in a certain way in a certain time frame, even when you are running a very successful large business, like, again, all of these boxes that we put people in and we expect them to do things, right? They would ask him, like, how on earth can you afford to take 3 weeks off from your business and your life? And he would say to them, how can I afford not to?
Yeah,
Because if I don't take
exactly.
this time, then I can't keep going.
Exactly. Yeah. And I knew, I actually didn't watch that episode, but I kind of knew you were going to say that, like, how can I afford not to, is like what kept ringing in my mind as true, because oh, yeah, whatever the capacity is that you can do something like that, and that's his passion and part of his like lineage of life for him to do. It definitely doesn't need to look that big for, everybody's is so different. I'm not someone that like travels a whole lot, so like but I know that that is like historically, like you said, kind of full circle for him every time, because that was life changing for him. So like going to there, so that is meant for him. And um it just ties into what you were saying before, like what I would kind of leave with is that I keep coming back to, is like, we're all here to bring forth our creative genius to one another. And how we do that is by, through our lived experiences, and like what sparks our passion. And what I think people get really hung up on the word passion, because they're like, well, I don't know what you mean by passion, or I don't feel like I have a passion, or it's not a project, or it's not a job. I think it's just what you're curious about, what sparks interest, and what you're like, oh, there's something about that. It kind of tickles you on the inside. Like you're kind of like, oh, I like that. Like, what's that about? I want to go, that's like your inner essence being like, go there, go there. Your higher self being like, go there, go there. Your angels, ancestors, spirit guides, go there, go there. Like everybody's like, go there,
Uh-huh.
And so that's all, whether it's a book, whether it's a podcast, whether it's going to a coffee shop you've never gone to. Maybe there's somebody there you're going to connect with. These are things we don't get to know, we're not supposed to know. And that's the fun of like the mystery of life, and just knowing the foundation of like in your heart and in your truth that like it is all connected. Nothing just happens, like it's all synchronistically, like this orchestration of divine creative intelligence. And everything is like a signal to you, or like a reminder, and like a remembering, it's like wholeness coming together of like, this is for you. And you're on your little video game of just finding the little gems in your life, basically, of like, oh, kind of like, oh, piece of candy, oh, piece of candy. Like that is what it's like. It's like, oh, I'm liking this right now, or oh, I'm liking listening to this person, like this mentor, or like, oh, I like going to this class, like that's sparking something, and letting it end when it needs to. So like there's eras, and there's different, where it's like, just because you do something doesn't mean you need to always do it. It's like maybe when it runs out of its excitement or its juice, it's like, well, you've kind of used it all up and something else is waiting for you. So like leave room to like go on to the next thing and let it be good and okay. And like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna flow over here, and like it's what I'm meant to do. And I think trusting in your own trust, because a lot of people like to say, sure, myself included, like, oh, well, I don't know how to trust, or I don't trust this, or I don't trust that. The power of paradox of life is you're always trusting something. So more asking the question of like, what are you trusting?
Mm-hmm.
So realigning with that, knowing you're always trusting something, what are you trusting in? And what are you allowing to guide you? And yeah, just being open and curious and playful, being playful with life, and just knowing that it's going to bring you where you need to go, and to bring your gifts and genius to everyone else around you, because we all need each other. We need you to do that. Don't selfishly keep it in you. That's a choice. You can't do that, but like someone else is waiting for you,
Yeah.
basically.
Mm-hmm.
They need you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. And this has been such a fun conversation to have with you, and I love to
It is so
explore
fun.
all of the different aspects that you bring into the conversations you have with other clients that are not just me, and all of the aspects of like the healing that you bring. Like truly at the core of what you do is healing, right? I think that there are so many people like you who move throughout the world as healers, even if that's not necessarily their job title, and you are definitely one of those. And one of the questions I always love to ask them is, so who heals the healer? So for all of the wisdom that you have and that you've imparted to the listeners on this show, what is it that helps you to feel refueled and to keep going?
A lot of times it's kind of re-meeting myself where I'm at and where I've evolved into in that time and space. So sometimes it means like pulling back on taking a little less off your plate and spending more time with yourself, with myself. And I have two kids at home and two dogs and a husband, so like I'm doing the everyday things too. So do the things you need to do, but when you can, weave in those moments of like making it a priority to meet with yourself more. And again, whatever that looks like, maybe it's like sitting for 5 minutes at the beginning of the day or the end of the day with like a journal. Some people are really into that. I haven't done that a lot in my life, but again, it's just examples of like maybe it's journaling, maybe it's like for me it's pulling out my yoga mat and sitting on it and moving around intuitively, maybe not following a class, but just moving my body somatically how it needs to move. Doing more like releasing, tapping, and just like moving around, just maybe stuck energy, connecting with myself, pulling some oracle cards, and just like being open to other messages and divine wisdom that's meant to, redirect me. And so just channeling in guidance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So allowing yourself to come back to a place where you are really just refilling your own cup just by being in your own space and your own energy for a little bit and recalibrating in whatever way energetically, somatically feels best for you in the moment. But then allowing yourself to come to a place where you can come back to a sense of openness again, which I think is such a powerful, very what's the word I'm looking for? Like it's very slept on. It's a very slept on like power move that, we are so much more available for life to be great for us
Yeah,
when we just become more available, period. When we just become more open to beauty and to being refueled in general.
right. My husband's knocking on the door. He's probably like, "What are you doing in there?" Um,
Well, it has been so
yeah.
great. I know you have to go pick up your kiddos from school and he's there, so I can let you go. Thank you so much for sharing this time with me today, Shelby. It's been so wonderful.
Oh, it's been so fun. I appreciate your time. This has been such a lovely first experience, and I'll totally do it again. I'm down. So this would be fun to meet up again like this.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Super looking forward to it. You enjoy the rest of your day, Shelby.
You too. Big love, girl. Bye.
Bye.